Happy Founders Day to you all. And today being Founders Day, 63 years of independence, I think there's a topic that's been going around and I've been thinking a lot about it. And I think it's best today will be a suitable day to add my voice to the debate. It's a topic of Ghanaian companies. Some people make it sound like, oh, people are jealous, so they collapse Ghanaian companies, or Ghanaian companies don't do well from various political regime to other political regime. There's been a few commentary on whether it's jealousy, whether it's political vindictiveness, whether it's just the way Ghanaian business are built. I want to spend a few minutes of my time to also add my voice to this conversation. I personally don't think that all Ghanaian businesses go down because of political vindictiveness. Yes, we all have to admit that there is that culture of political vindictiveness in this country where people, through their hard-earned sweat, will start a company and just by political affiliation, a party will come to power and go at length to collapse that company. I have been a victim of some of that some time back when I was one of the first Ghanaian companies to get an oil block in this country. And when we moved from MPP to NDC, I was told in my face that I'm too young to have an oil block. An oil block is not a childish game. And I'm not going to mention names who told me that, but I have been a victim of such. But in many cases, I don't think it's political vindictiveness that make Ghanaian businesses go down. And I will try to explain. We tend to build businesses in Ghana, and our one and sole customer is the government. Now, you realize that through political affiliation or political contact, somebody will get a business breakthrough. And when that business is established, his sole customer, over 90% of his revenue, is from government. Now, if that person does not diversify, if that person does not ground or root this business in proper business practice, and you're only happy getting big margins because your political affiliation, then obviously when there's a change of government, the new government who you do not have that political affiliation or contact with will not be so friendly or so cozy with you, so that that type of contract that you were enjoying would continue. So as a result, that company will collapse. There are other companies that will form. They don't really capitalize the company well, and we have seen that in the recent banks that were collapsed. Some of the banks had a long history, like the Unibanks and co. Some of the banks just didn't have the the requisite capital. There was a bank called the Energy Bank. The Energy Bank was formed when 2009, His Excellency the late Atta Mills became president. Energy Bank was not well capitalized. They didn't have the requisite capital, but they were given a license. And we saw a lot of that when we all read the report that came out from Bank of Ghana requires to capital base of some of these banks. You need to have a certain level of capital to be able to establish a business. Now, people tend to find devious means to get some of these capital and form a bank. Now, they start collecting deposits and use that deposit to basically try and get organic growth. So through shareholders fund, they are able to now basically increase their base, and if nothing is checked, it becomes a bank. But these are not the right way of doing business. One, you need to start a business not necessarily with debt, but with equity. We are used to just trying to go to the bank to try and get a loan to start a business. For me, I think it's a wrong approach. You have friends and you have family, and anytime you want to start a business, you can sell that business ideas to friends and family and get them to be part of that business. We are used to having 100% of a company and trying to be the boss and the chairman, and when we are to spend our personal expenditure, we sign company checks because we are the only shareholders to some of these businesses. The reason we like to have that is that we are used to having one-man businesses in Ghana where we make all the decisions. We don't like our decisions challenged. So we don't want to bring in Mr. Kofi or Mr. Amma or Auntie Jane to come into the business, and by so doing, we have to now go to them and discuss our ideas and our expenditure with them. So we tend to have an idea, don't really do any feasibility, don't do much on the business, and then just go for a bank, get somebody else to do a business plan which we don't even believe in, and then use that business plan, get a collateral, which is our father's property or our own property, and try to get a loan. In so doing, we tend to now get the loan to start the business, and in 3, 4, 5 years, that business will collapse. And somebody will say that, oh, it's another person that came into power and did not give that person business and collapse it. But when you investigate further, you realize that some of these businesses are not well rooted in best business practice. There is no corporate governance. We tend to have this one-man business, and that's why most of the times we collapse these companies. If we are to have partners, people who believe in our idea, and most of the time we have the idea and we don't tell anybody about this idea, because we think that if you run the idea by somebody else, the person will punch holes in your thinking, and you think that that person does not wish you well or does not want you to do well. It's not true. If you come to me and you tell me your idea, I will be able to think through it and punch holes and see things that you have not seen. Reason in areas that you probably have not reasoned. And with 2 or 3 minds together, you realize that your idea, though you've not done a proper feasibility, through discussing it with multiple people, they will all see sense, bring on board, criticize, and not always tell you what you want to hear. When everybody has a buy-in in that idea, then they can put their small money to that business. And the good thing about business is you need to start small, start private. Don't always be quick to run to government for government to be your sole customer. If you start small and you start private and you grow that company, and along the line you start getting government businesses alongside your private businesses, it will be difficult for any government to come in and collapse. It's possible because we live in a country where everything we do tend to have regulatory. There's been a past where Kingdom, Yofo, herbal drugs companies were harassed because FDA are the ones that regularize them, and though Kingdom and Yofo and the other company, I think Tobinco, were doing well, and there's a private business, because they are licensed by FDA, when there was a political interference in their business, and the CEO at that time of FDA was able to harass these 3 companies, Tobinco, Kingdom, and other companies, and they nearly collapsed. I think Kingdom has never recovered from where it was till today. So those are challenges that we have in this country. And today being Founders Day, I think we need to bring our mind to that, and all of us need to see how best we can help private Ghanaian businesses. I've always said that anytime somebody steps out of a plane in Ghana, any business that person has, a Ghanaian has that idea. The only challenge as Ghanaians is access to what we call risk equity. Risk equity is, in the sense, money that you use in doing feasibility, basically trying to get a business plan, trying to do research to make sure that if that business will work. That money is spent without you getting any returns, and it is what you would allow you to get to know whether that business will do well or will not do well. Now, if you are able to start a business and you have private customers and it is rooted in good corporate governance, you might not be big, you might not be one of the biggest companies in Ghana. If you do not get government contracts, you'll be able to do well with private contracts. So personally, I don't think that the theory of people saying that yes, because of jealousy, people are collapsing people's businesses, for me is 100% true. I think it's mostly to do with people's businesses not being rooted in good corporate governance, and people tending to let their business, being their number one customer, being government, We've seen a lot of contractors who are only contractors when a certain party comes into power. They are not civil engineers, they are not proper businessmen, they register a company, and because they know the minister or know someone within a particular party, they get contract to do roads. Now, if this person now tends to grow the business over 4 years or 8 years, and there's a change of government and somebody else does not see why they should give that person more contracts, so because they want to give somebody from their party more contracts, you will see how that becomes a problem for that person, because they've now put their business in, they'll put their collateral, their properties as collateral, and they are owed. Those are some of the things that we have in this country. And I said, today being Founders Day, I think as a country, we should try our best to encourage Ghanaians. And though the person might not be from the same political party that you have, if there are 100 contracts to be given out, why not give 40 to your party members? And let 60 of that contract be bidded for by everybody. At least as a country, we'll get value for money. I don't see why everything has to be a scenario where one person or one group takes all. And that is what is affecting this country. And 63 years since this country was founded, from independence to today, I honestly don't think that we have done justice to the country. We've many a times have scenarios where political parties are fighting over who has been or who is or who will be adjudged the best party, who has done the most infrastructure, without having to look at the basics, without having to look at the building of a state, corporate governance, rule of law, making sure that the fundamentals of the country is right. Now, if we do not do this, and we owe contractors, we do not pay civil servants well, we do not do the things that will fundamentally affect people's life, many a times we have eroded the wealth of many Ghanaians by owing them for 2 years, 3 years. Now, the dollar to the cedi depreciates. So when you owe somebody over 3 years, you can imagine what happens to that person's money, because the contract is it's a cedi dominated currency. Now, if you now judge that by the dollar to the cedi, that person will have lost out from the time he did the contract to the time you paid him back his money. If he used his house or his factory or his property as a collateral, the bank would have charged that person so much interest, and that person will have lost out on the value of what the person should have made. I know of contractors that have done work as far back as 2004, 2005 that are still owed money. I know contractors that are owed money for 3 years, for 5 years, for 7 years, for various reasons. Why are we doing that to our own people? Now, if we want to grow as a nation, we want to grow the economy, it is the people that we need to grow. If we allow, even the person is your party person, and you spend 2 years in paying back that person's money, you have eroded that person's margin on the contract, you've eroded that person's value. Because something in Ghana, the way things, if inflation and all the other factors, if you delay in paying my money for a year, that money doesn't have the same value. So I think, I don't want to make this a long video, but for me, long and short is that I think that, yes, there are political vindictiveness towards certain companies, but in general, I think that as a nation, Ghanaians are not building companies that are rooted in good corporate governance, and we tend to try to make government our number one customer. We need to shy away from that and look at best business practices. Too big margins does not help anybody. Somebody will go to China or go somewhere and bring a product. He bought it for 2 cedis and he wants to sell it for 50 cedis. We are doing that to ourselves every day. It would not help your business grow, because big margins are short-lived. You reduce your margin and you sell a lot more, and you get dedicated and loyal customers. If you bring in quality products and people have brand loyalty, you will do well in the long term than bringing in a very inferior product and you charge a higher margin and the person buys it and doesn't come back to you to buy it. We need to learn to build good corporate governance and brand loyalty. There are a lot of businesses that are doing well today in Ghana because they have good brand loyalty and they have built good corporate governance. Yes, government might come in and frustrate them through regulatory, but in the long run, they will still prosper. I think that is where I'll end this. In the subsequent time, if there's a topic that I think I want to add my voice to, I will definitely do that. Thank you.